Hey there, horror fans, both furry and non-furry alike. I'm Lucius Shadow, your werewolf host for the evening, and this is
Club Chrisette.
Yep. And should we explain how we know each other?
I guess.
Yeah, we've been best friends since kind of like second grade, I think.
Second or third, like
Yeah.
very eearly on.
But
like,
before I was a werewolf.
Yeah, the transformation is still kind of disturbing.
Yes, but it makes me look so much more sexy, don't you?
I like a man with the hairy chest.
I have a very hairy chest, so. But okay, so we're really excited to be here today because we're gonna be talking about the new Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark movie.
Some people believe if we repeat stories often enough, they become real. They make us who we are. That can be scary.
Eat it, Harold.
Some people might not know too much about it, but
Whether because it might just be something you've never heard of
Yeah,
in terms of a movie, or even
it
what it's
seems to
based
kind
on.
of. I've noticed like the marketing seems to kind of be like just around certain parts of the internet. Like I've seen a lot of it on Twitter, not so much of it on YouTube.
It's true. Like, I feel like I've seen more Dora the
Oh
Explorer.
my god.
Yeah, I feel like I've been exposed more to that than this.
But the reason I'm like really excited to talk about this and that I was really excited to see this movie is because they're based on these books from when I was a kid. Some of you watching may have grown up with them too. But yeah, I ordered these probably in 4th grade, I think, and one of the book orders from when we were kids, and I loved them. I loved them so much. These are probably what sat in my backpack the most, just because I could read all of these stories over and over and over again and just never get tired of any of them. So whenever I was just like, oh, I finished my homework early, I don't have anything to do, I would just pick out one of the books and just start reading. And I first heard that this movie was getting made back in probably 2017. It was like a rumor at the time, but they had said Guillermo del Toro is working on an adaptation of this. I'm like, oh, please let that be true, because I love me some Guillermo del Toro.
He's a really good, and I mean, he's proven to be really good over the years.
And yeah, when I heard that, I'm like, if that's true, he's like the perfect person to adapt those, like, because I love his horror stuff and everything, and just like, you know, I love Pan's Labyrinth. I even liked some of his stuff that some people didn't like. Like I liked Mama a lot.
Really?
Yeah, some people didn't like Mama. I liked Mama.
Oh no, yeah, I know that one got like raked through a bed of nails, essentially, by critics and
Yeah.
audiences alike.
I mean, it seemed like it was like mixed. I met like half the people I've met liked it, half the other people hated it. But I'm like, I liked it. It wasn't one of his better movies, but I mean, it wasn't bad. But yeah, when he got announced to be doing this, I was like, great, oh my god, it's actually happening. And I guess before we start talking about the movie, let's talk about what we were kind of expecting before we saw the movie, like just based on the original trailers.
Definitely. So
I'll go first, I guess.
Okay. You're the host of the show.
When I saw the first trailer, and even before the trailers, when it was just first announced, what I was expecting, and also what I was kind of secretly hoping, was I thought it was going to be kind of an anthology format. I thought it was going to be just like the book,
Right.
where it was going to be something kind of like Creepshow, which you haven't seen Creepshow, but you need to. We need to watch it together.
Yes.
And do a video on it, because Creepshow is basically like Tales from the Crypt, the movie. It's just a collection of like 5 stories, or I have four pads, so yeah, there we go. Yeah, 5 stories. It's a collection of 5 stories into like one movie with like kind of a overarching plot to sort of tie them in together, but for the most part, it's just one story after the other.
Right.
And each one lasts maybe like 15 to 30 minutes.
Right. That easily pads out a movie very well.
Yeah.
So.
And so that's kind of what I was thinking it was going to be with this. Like either they'd be telling them like at a campfire or at a sleepover or something, and it would just be like maybe 5 or 6 of like the most popular stories from these 3 books, and that would be the movie. And then the second trailer came out, and I was like, oh, they're doing like more of like a Goosebumps thing, I guess, kind of like they did with the Goosebumps movie, where like the monsters get released from the books or something.
Right.
And
Hey, what's going on?
Tommy's missing.
Tommy's name was in the book. There's no way it's actually connected, right? Okay, what if what happens in the book is exactly what's happened for real? Oh my
I was
God.
kind of like, okay, I guess that's okay. I wasn't sure if I would like that or not, because I haven't seen Goosebumps yet.
It's horrible. It would.
I've heard that's another one I've heard mixed things from. Some people say it's like, oh, it was actually it was all right, but like some
It's not up to
people
my 25-year-old standards as a children's movie.
But yeah, I saw that like it looked like they were going that route, and I'm like, okay, I guess that's all right too. I was just kind of bummed that it wasn't going to be an anthology. But when I kept seeing more and more of the trailers and like kind of like the visual effects and the monsters, which they take a lot of inspiration from the illustrations. Like, I was really pleasantly surprised with how accurate they were to the illustrations. Which, if anyone hasn't read these books or don't know their reputations, they have terrifying illustrations in them.
To the point they got banned, actually.
Yeah, they got banned heavily in a lot of elementary schools, and I think just a lot of schools in general, not even just elementary. But I know they re-released them, but they took out like all the illustrations. They like replaced them all with like new illustrations, and they're not scary.
Right, they're like pseudo scary.
And I'm just like, that was like half the fun of these books.
Right.
But yeah, like they take a lot of inspiration from the illustrations, and when I saw that, I'm like, oh wow, I'm getting more hyped to see this movie. I don't know too much about what the story is gonna be, but yeah, that was basically what I was expecting. So I guess now you go ahead. What were you expecting?
I was totally expecting it to be like basically a giant episode of Are You Afraid of the Dark, where it's these kids that get around a campfire and they try to outspook each other, and the stories just get progressively worse as they went. You know, like starting with something like the Red Spot, and then ending with like Harold the Scarecrow, which that one's a classically scary.
Yeah, that one just. Oof, that one still like gives me chills.
Oh, definitely. And I told
the way it ends, just.
Harold hangs up a bloodied skin. Yes.
Yeah. Ugh.
I know. And that was based on the very first trailer that was shown at the Super Bowl. You know, it just gave us like really fast glimpses of like horrifying moments, but no defined story at that point. But as trailers came out, like what he said, I thought they were going to do what Goosebumps did, which put me off because Goosebumps.
Yeah, you didn't like Goosebumps.
I didn't. I mean, like the idea was clever, like the monsters coming out of the books to terrorize people. But I mean, it was so kid friendly, and I feel
you said that you wish that they'd gone like the PG-13 route or something.
Exactly, something that would have allowed them to actually explore what the show was able to do with the pseudo-scary kind of themes that they had going, where it was kind of unnerving to watch. You didn't know it was going to happen, you know.
Yeah.
I was really hoping for that, and let me tell you, I got a lot more out of this movie than just that.
Yeah, this movie I think is R-rated.
It's PG-13.
Oh, it is.
Believe it or not.
For some reason, I heard it was R-rated. It certainly could have fooled me. It earns its rating. It doesn't do the PG route, which it easily could have done because like these stories don't have any swearing in it or anything.
Exactly.
So they could have just like kind of just.
They could have gone with it. Yeah.
They could have just done a PG movie, but they didn't, and I'm like. Thank you so much for not doing a PG movie.
Exactly.
They got to do more, and they really took advantage of the PG-13 rating.
They really did, and it shows through just like the visuals they've got, some of the themes and character development that they have. It's just kind of present, you know. They use it to the max without pushing it to an R-rated level, which is really good.
Yeah, like. I always which is rare for horror movies these days. Like normally when I think I could probably count on like one paw of like how many good modern PG-13 horror stories there are. Like maybe Happy Death Day would be one. I don't know if you've seen Happy Death Day. And I think that's about it. Yeah, that's about it. Most PG-13 horror is just like it's just garbage.
It really is.
It's just like, oh yeah, we're marketing towards the middle school audience who will see anything.
That wants something edgy.
Yeah, that wants something stupid and edgy and just cliche, and yeah, they don't go the Slender Man route.
Exactly.
Oh god, I have to do that movie one of these days.
There's a movie on it.
That's what I was talking about. You didn't know about the Slender Man? Oh my god, she didn't know about the Slender Man movie, guys. It's terrible.
Oh, thanks for the spoiler.
It's terrible. But yeah, they don't do what they did with Slender Man, where it's just like, oh yeah, just play a bunch of random crap on the screen and just call it horror. With this, what should we talk about first? Or I guess first we should say, because before we get into any spoilers, let's talk about like one kind of like what the movie's about, and without any spoilers, and then also like our recommendation. Do we want people to go see it?
No, yeah, that's a perfect starting point.
So the movie is basically it starts out as like five kids, I think. Is it 5 or 4?
It's 3 kids.
Oh yeah, then Roman joins them, and then the older sister kinda.
Like very last minute.
Yeah, basically. But yeah, it starts like an ensemble of like 4 kids, and it starts out on Halloween because of course.
Right.
And it takes place in the 1960s, which I thought was a interesting and good choice actually, especially because these were published in, I believe, the late 80s to early 90s was when these were first published.
Right.
Even though they were, and so they could have easily have gone with like the trend that's been going on, like with Stranger Things and and just have it take place in the 80s.
Or even like in a lot of video games that I like to play, like Duck Season and Five Nights at Freddy's, all take place in the 80s,
Yeah. So they easily could have done that, but they didn't. They decided to do the 60s, which honestly makes sense because even though these were published in the 80s and 90s, they contain a lot of stories that have technically been around for, honestly, probably centuries, and have just been kind of changed around with each version and everything.
Exactly, based on culture and...
Yeah, I mean, one of them is like about the Wendigo, which is a Native American legend. And that was actually the first time I ever heard about the Wendigo. That was my first Wendigo story. And I never knew how to pronounce it. When I was a kid, I was like, the Wendigo?
I want a hashtag of that, guys. Lucius Wendigo.
But, yeah, so it kind of makes sense to have it take place in the 60s because these stories have technically been around for forever, and so a lot of them probably were told in the 60s, or at least a version of them was told in the 60s.
Right.
And it's pretty period accurate for the most part. Like, I like that they don't show too much of like the prejudices of the 60s because that's not what the movie's about. It's not a racism movie. But they don't shy away from it, like, because one of the main characters is Hispanic, and yeah, pretty much starts off with like one of the bully characters straight up calling him a slur, which I don't want to say here because I don't want to say it.
No, and I totally get that. Like, I appreciate that they don't step away from the prejudices that are present in that time, and even still now, but like probably more so at that time.
Oh yeah.
Like it's very clear in some of the choices in the movie, which we'll talk about a little bit more later. But like he said, one of the main characters in our group of outcasts and losers, is targeted by the bully, a policeman, for example. So
and even when like the policeman, like, the racism with the policeman technically isn't, it's like thinly veiled racism, because like the policeman says to like the main character,
Stella.
Yeah, Stella. He says to her like, "You're better than this draft dodger over here," which is like, yeah, you
Which
know, that
literally
was, like,
translates to, what are you hanging out with this brown boy for?
Yeah, basically, it's like, why are you with this minority kid for?
Exactly.
And I like that they included that. I like that it's like, yeah, it's not overt because, yeah, it's not a racism movie. This isn't The Help.
Exactly.
But yeah, like they don't shy away from it either. It's like, yeah, this is the '60s. There's gonna be some racism or some sexism or whatever isms.
Right.
This is a very politically incorrect time.
Exactly. And it was right, but like they even go into like to concrete the accuracy of the time, like talk about how Nixon's about to be president. And
yeah,
like,
there's
kind of a lot of side stories.
There's a lot of one thing I also noticed. There's a lot of flashes to Nixon, which
I feel like I need to do more research on his campaigning to appreciate some of the references more.
I feel like maybe that was supposed to be symbolic because I mean Nixon's thing was kind of like, I mean, he exploited some of people's fears, I guess, and it was kind of like, I guess, like, I don't know, like, I need to do, it's like you said, I need to do a little bit more research, because they cut a lot of campaign footage of his.
They did.
TVs, or debates that they're having, or, yeah, just a lot of different stuff. Though, one thing that did bother me, and this is honestly kind of a nitpick, but there's a scene where it shows him, I believe, winning the election, but this takes place in October, not November. Election season's not in October. That was the one thing. That was like one of the one things that bugged me, and that was a really minor thing.
No, it should have been in November at that point because Ruth at one point says Halloween is over.
I mean, but November election season. They're a bit obscure on like how many days go by between characters disappearing and everything, I guess.
They are.
But I don't know. It still seemed like it's like, okay, this is too early. It seems like it's.
But
like,
no, I definitely agree with you.
It seems like it's November 4th right now, not November 9th.
Exactly.
But yeah, there was a lot of that, and so the movie's about these kids, and they on Halloween they go into this house that's got like a reputation about it in the town. That where this girl that lived there, her family like kept her in like the basement or whatever. They like just kept her prisoner there. They wouldn't let her go outside, and there was like a legend that she would tell stories to kids through the wall of the house, and then the kids would just disappear or die or something, and so everyone thought it was her that did it. And they explore the house. A couple of creepy stuff happens, and they go into the basement and they find a book that's filled with a bunch of scary stories. And you see a couple of flashes of some of the titles, and you see that they're some of them are the stories from these. And Stella ends up taking the book home, which of course she does, even though it's like, do not take that book home.
Right.
And yeah, something one of the stories just randomly starts writing itself, like just right in front of her, and it's the main character is one of the bullies that attacked them, and the story is Harold. The story is Harold from this, which is like this scarecrow that ends up killing this one of the
skinning
people.
A man.
Yeah. Killing and skinning a man, which they don't do that here. They don't skin him, but it's honestly kind of creepier than if they had skinned
Oh no, I feel
him.
like it's worse.
Like that was like something out of like the SCP Foundation. What happened to him? Like you touch a cursed object and all of a sudden this happens to you.
Oh my god.
Yeah, and so that like he disappears. No one knows what happens to them, but like she's like, yeah, his name just appeared in this book and now he's gone. Coincidence?
I think not.
And of course, yeah, that starts basically a Final Destination chain reaction of different characters appearing in the book, having their story told, and then disappearing after the thing and the story gets them.
Exactly. I feel like that can easily be summed up in the line, "The book reads you." So.
Yeah, which I think they show in the trailer, which says you don't read the book reads you. And so yeah, they're trying to figure out how to stop this book from killing everyone, and also at the same time trying to uncover more about who. I forget her last name, but it was Sarah
Bellows.
Sarah Bellows, who Sarah Bellows, the writer of the book, was. And it's just this interesting mystery. More stuff gets uncovered, and we get periodically, all the scary stuff from this series.
It's a really well blended because it doesn't neglect. You okay?
Yeah.
It doesn't neglect the source material at all. It really doesn't. It makes such a strong effort to call back on it as many times as it can without just abusing it.
Yeah, like they make a few changes, but like
I feel like they're really good changes.
They don't, and when they do, they don't deviate like too much from the source material. Like with the Pale Woman story, that one was a little different from what happened in the book, where in that story it's like this woman keeps it was a woman, not a boy, that was seeing her in the dreams. She keeps having this nightmare about this creepy looking pale woman with like this giant mouth and creepy beady eyes. She honestly kind of looked like Donald Trump. And she keeps seeing her in her nightmare, and the woman always says, "This is an evil place, leave while you can." And right when she says that, she wakes up from the dream, and then she ends up staying at some hotel a couple of nights later, and when she goes down to check in or something like that, when she looks back up at what's supposed to be the desk clerk, it's the pale woman from her dream, and she just gets out of there. And that's basically how it ends. It just ends with nope, and runs. But something a lot different happens in the movie.
Yeah.
But for the most part, the pale woman looked exactly like she does.
Oh no, yes, that's something I was looking at, like post watching the movie, like the character design choices and prosthetic choices for the monsters were incredibly accurate.
Yeah, that was another thing I liked. But one thing I really, this is why I was even more excited about Guillermo del Toro being a part of it, is he knows how to do a good balance of practical effects and CG, which is really rare for horror movies.
It really is.
Most horror movies are like, look, here's CG, look how real it looks. When it's like, no, it doesn't look that real. Yeah, there's always so much CG, and it's like you could have just used some practical effects. Like I remember here's an example from a movie I actually really like, is with The Conjuring. I love The Conjuring movies, and the first one is great, but there's one scene where a chair gets thrown at someone, and it's so clearly a CG chair, and I'm like, you really couldn't use a real chair? And
budgeting was tight, man.
That seems a lot cheaper than CG.
Oh, I know, right? You'd think buying like a thrift store chair would be no issue.
Yeah, but that's just one example from like a movie that I actually still really like. But yeah, with this movie, there was a lot of mix of CG and like practical prosthetic effects.
Exactly.
And the prosthetics, yeah, like you said, were really good.
I really do appreciate the use of makeup, especially like in scenes like the red spot.
Yeah.
Like,
oh God.
Like the whole process of the prosthetic transformation is just awesome, all the way up to like the last time you see Ruth with her final prosthetic on.
Yeah, which for those of you who don't know the red spot, you've probably heard a version of it. It's the one where a spider like crawls across a girl's face at night, and then she wakes up with a pimple on her face, and it just keeps getting bigger and bigger each day, and then until it explodes and a bunch of spiders crawl out of her face. Mm-hmm. So it laid eggs in her face.
Which is kind of a horrifying thought.
Yeah, which, don't worry, I don't think that can actually happen.
You only have to have an aperture for it to happen.
Yeah, don't have any open wounds around spiders. Or bugs, just in general.
Seems like a good one.
Or, well, spiders aren't bugs, they're arachnids.
Technicalities.
Yeah. But yeah, the practical effects were really good. The music was really good too, and there were also several scenes. You pointed this out when we were leaving the theater that didn't have music. They just used the silence as the atmosphere, and it was really good.
It was really good. Like, what I appreciate is in most horror movies when they use silence, you're expecting that big jump scare, like, because it's supposed to be very suspenseful. But there were moments like when they first go into the house, like, there's no music, and it's not even supposed to be suspenseful at that moment, because the kids are just kind of playing around, but all you hear are, like, the footsteps and, like, the creaking of the floors, just things like that. It gives you more of an immersive sense.
And there will be scenes where you're kind of expecting a jump scare, and you won't get one.
Exactly.
And most of the jump scares in here didn't bother me. There was maybe one that I think bothered both of us, that we were just like, okay, that one was a little cheap.
Oh my god, yeah.
Almost all of the jump scares are earned. Like
exactly.
It's not just like, oh, here's just a cheap jump scare from some cheap VHS horror movie. But yeah, almost all the jump scares were like really good. Like the scene with the woman from the toe. That one made me actually scream in the theater.
It did.
Like I screamed like a girl in the theater when that happened. Oh god. Yeah, so the movie is scary. Like it does a good job actually. I was texting someone before I came over here to make this video, and they were asking me, like, oh yeah, how was that? Was it even scary? And I'm like, yeah, it was actually like really, like, it wasn't like in your face scary, but it was atmospheric, and it kind of lets the atmosphere kind of.
And that's another really good thing to point out, because that draws back from the books. You know, like you and I were talking, like, right before making this video, a lot of the stories leave it up to your imagination as to what the hell happened. Like, and there's only like 1 or 2 instances on screen where you really get to see what happens. There's a lot of moments where it kind of, you know, it's not a cutaway, but it's just appropriately ominous, and you don't really know what happens.
Yeah.
Even though you see what happens, you don't comprehend it, really.
Another thing I liked that I find this... they make this mistake constantly with other modern horror movies, is they make, like, there's no characters in the horror movie that you actually like. But with this, I liked, like, everyone except for the bullies.
Exactly. Like, everyone had redeemable qualities, really.
Yeah, like even the older sister, where, like, yeah, like, the first thing you see of her is, like, she's kind of, like, you know, her and the younger brother are kind of, like, fighting with each other.
I was going to say, what I like about the older sister in this movie particularly is she's not really, like, a bad person. Like, whenever you see her, like, come back or say something kind of snarky, it's because, like, her younger brother instigated it first.
They're just being siblings. She seems like an older sister. Like, she's not being needlessly mean. She's not being a bitch or whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah, she's just being a regular older sister, and yeah, that's one thing I like. Like, the characters actually seem like characters. They seem like real people that could exist. And yeah, there's no one in here that I like. There's no one in here except for the bully that I wanted to see die.
It's not like Until Dawn where you're like, when can I kill everyone?
Yeah, so Until Dawn, the only one in that I wanted to die was the, like, freaking what's her face.
Is it Emily?
Yeah, Emily. All the characters, all the main characters. I was like, I don't want to see them die.
Exactly. Like, you kind of get attached to them, like, really quickly too, because you see how human they are, and you get, like, a good sense of the people you're following really well. You know that they're not just archetypes, like, that are just kind of like, oh, well, you know, it's kind of cut and paste. Like, they're very relatable and very human.
Yeah,
so.
Like, there's no like token characters like, oh yeah, here we have the fat one, here's the black one, here's the
nerdy one,
here's the girl character.
Right.
Yeah, so there's none of that. Like, they're not archetypes, they're not tropes, they're not cliches, they're people.
And I appreciate that a lot.
Yeah. So do you have anything else non-spoilery you want to add before we kind of give our recommendation and then get into spoilers?
God, I do want to talk about the opening music, like, so.
Oh yeah.
So bad. That was.
I don't know if that's like a song that already existed, but it was a song called "Season of the Witch," which made me think of Halloween 3, Season of the Witch. Which, that movie's amazing.
I love the use of the opening music so much. So I am like such a big music nerd. That's
me too.
That's just how I am. And I love like the first song, like not the one like where it's showing like all the characters, but the one where it's showing like who all produced this and contributed to this movie. It was so atmospheric and ominous, but it wasn't like a psychological. It was just more suspenseful, like hype you up, and then it transitions into this really cheerful, smooth flow of loonies kind of music, which was like really good. It really kind of set the tone for the movie instantly.
Yeah.
Like in terms of time period and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
so.
that was the cool thing about the music, is it like it felt period accurate. Like I said, I don't know if the Season of the Witch song is like a song from the 60s or whatever, or that existed back then.
But the way it was performed for this movie.
The way it was performed, with the exception of the after credits version, which that one was just, a modern
right.
version of it.
No, that one was...
That one was fine. I mean...
I'm trying to remember who did that one. I just literally saw them tweet about it today.
Oh, really?
Yes!
Nice. But yeah, the music was really good. And is there anything else?
That's really all I can think of right now.
So
Everything else is...
I guess let's give our verdict. Go see this movie. Like if you have any horror interest at all, or if you grew up with these like I did, go see this movie. Go support this movie because it's so good. They clearly tried. It was like Detective Pikachu, where like they were clearly trying to make a good thing.
Exactly.
And they succeeded. They made such a really good, passionate product.
Yes, definitely. If you want what Goosebumps wanted to do, this is the movie for you. Yeah. Definitely. It's so good. I loved it, and I'm not usually a fan of horror.
Yeah.
I feel like I need that clip where the gay man saying, "I'm not usually a fan of musicals," like just kind of cropped on my face right now.
Yeah, and I love horror, so this was like crack to me.
And this was it was really fun for me too. It was.
Yeah, it was a fun ride. It was like going to like a haunted house. Like
it really was.
Like a SeaWorld or something.
Exactly. Like it's immersive, but none of it's gonna get you. So
yeah, I don't like give like any numerical ratings. You can if you want. I do the Siskel and Ebert thing where it's like thumbs up or thumbs down. Well, this is like a huge thumbs up.
No, yeah, this was. I don't have enough thumbs up on my body for this.
Basically, this is thumbs and big toes up.
Yes. It was really good. Go see this movie if you are into horror or just want something that's fresh and different.
Exactly.